As you know, my program is called Part Stock, and it's kind of different from yours, but I want to bring light to the information of and what takes place inside the auto industry itself, particularly dealerships. And individuals such as yourself who have this vast amount of experience can share to the outsider when he walks into a dealership what to expect. And when you see people running around, right? And they're basically busy doing other stuff because it's such a fast-paced industry, right?
Yes.
Everything is just go, 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 go. And customers bring their car in, they just want to get the service done and out. But at the same time now, we have to go back into a little bit of the history as to, the perception. Where did we go wrong in terms of how people view us, right? Working in the industry, because they think about the average garage, workshop, dealership as we're just going to rip them off. So that is something that we kind of have to try to get over at that part. And myself, having been working in the industry for like more than 20 years, right? I'm currently not in it, but I am in it because I work in transportation now. However, I've been in the dealership setting for more than 20 years. I know exactly what goes on from the bottom all the way to the top. I've been a manager for at least 15 years. And I know that without the proper leadership in a dealership, that dealership sucks, right? From the moment you walk 100%. in and you do an environmental scan of that area, you know exactly if that dealership is a well-oiled running machine.
That's
right?
correct.
So without further ado, just let my viewers let anyone know what this conversation is about, and just introduce yourself and let me know exactly what you're all about.
Yeah, sure. Name is Chris Craig, two first names, Chris MF Craig. If you find me on TikTok is where you found me. I've been in and out of the automotive industry arguably since 2012 when I graduated high school. During high school, I had 3 years of automotive education in Votech. I graduated top of that class, which got me started into college. From there, I completed my associate's degree in automotive technology, which is like tech school. I then took the dive and decided to do another 2 more years, and I got a bachelor's degree in automotive business management. So it's a business degree, but hyper focused into the automotive industry, which is where a lot of my book knowledge comes from, and that stuff where I can just regurgitate information on TikTok. That's where a lot of that comes from.
Okay.
I've worked in the industry in several different fields. I've been a working technician in an independent shop. I have a ton of parts experience, but not in dealerships and retail stores like Fisher Auto Parts. I worked management at an AutoZone during college. And then I had my service advisor experience, which is across 3 different manufacturers up until now, where I'm no longer a service advisor, but now I'm just a TikTok service advisor, so to speak.
Okay, but based on your content though, and I'm gonna put your channel down in the description so people can find you. I find, like I told you before, I find it very fascinating, informative, and entertaining, so to speak. If they want to learn a lot about the auto industry, when I came across your content, I said, wow. And I mean, this guy nails it. He has it right down to where exactly I wanted to let a lot of people know exactly what is going on. Right. But based on where you started and where you are now, what is your overall view of the industry right now?
The industry as it stands, we are facing large amounts of change, and that mostly comes from what we've all been dealing with, which is the COVID pandemic, and that kind of changed the face once again of how automotive is working. And in addition to how COVID has changed things as far as parts availability, technician availability, because they got to take 2 weeks off at certain points in time, and the volume has just increased so much, and plus the workforce is starting to diminish due to COVID and stuff like that. Internal to the industry, we're seeing a lot of warranty process changes. In my experience, I worked for a Ford manufacturer, well, not the Ford manufacturer, but a Ford dealership. And one of the major issues Ford faced was there was a door latch recall that technicians weren't completing. They would take the new parts and they would throw them in the trash, state that they did the job, and ship the car, get paid for that time. Yeah, it was a huge fraudulent situation. That it's for a couple of different reasons, but what happens is now we have additional recalls on top of that, and now we have additional warranty procedures like taking actual pictures of the job as you go.
Yeah.
Which creates all new layers. So the industry is always constantly changing, but the problem is how do you communicate that to your customer base, because they really don't understand any of that. All they see is a shop and a car, and I need it fixed.
Yeah.
And that's part of that headache and problem. I'll have a door latch recall come through the door, for example, same topic. And we'll do the recall in maybe, I don't know, 30 minutes, but I can't release the vehicle until Ford does this right here.
Yeah.
And it examines the pictures and knows that we actually did the work. So it just adds a layer of complexity for our customer base.
Yeah. And I know that you mentioned that you went to school for automotive, but did you also study to be a service advisor?
Actually, yes, I did. My instructor in college had a PhD. He actually wrote 2 books, and I still have them to this day. And as a matter of fact, with my new occupation, I was reading them because it's about strategic business planning. We dive deep into dealership operations, each department, how they mesh and how they don't mesh, DMSs and things of that nature. And we also discuss service consultants, service advisors, parts department, parts management. And we even discuss some ownership level stuff with dealerships as well. So I did actually technically go to school for that portion for that position.
Yeah, and why I mentioned that is because I'm from the old school where you go to a dealership and you work from the bottom up, right?
Yeah.
And then you work right across all departments. You try to understand the dynamics that works in parts, service, sales, even to be a lot attendant, because I've known persons who started out as a lot attendant and then they ended up being a service manager or a marketing consultant or something of the sort, or a sales rep, right? And they understand every part of the dealership itself. However, what I've seen in the later years is that because of the big egos, I call them, the persons at the top, they're bringing in other people now who, because of their networking, they don't understand nothing that goes on in a dealership and how a dealership management runs, right? And they fail to understand that there are actually schools out there that are teaching people the dynamics of working in a dealership. And the theory is just to recruit these individuals into the dealership itself. But they're not looking at that. They only think that the only persons that learn to work in a dealership are just mechanics, right? So part of the, is it a problem with the schools, or is it a problem with the dealership not looking? That's the question where I'm at right now, and it's one of the reasons why. Well, because there's a myriad of reasons as to why the dealership environment is suffering. So what do you think about that part?
I'm going to cut right in the middle of all that, and I'm going to say it's dealership training. We'll send our technicians to different ASE certification courses, different manufacturer certification courses, and get them trained up because they have to be to actually do some of the work that they do. But as a service advisor, I've seen it so many times, it's myself included. We'll hire somebody, we'll get them their credentials, their logins and everything. We'll hand them an iPad, a clipboard, and everything they need. And then we'll actually pick up our leg and kick them right out in the service lane, and they'll sink or swim. Yeah. There is, in my experience across 4 dealerships, absolutely no training for a service advisor. It's a sink or swim situation. And that is why when you go into a dealership, every service advisor you work with is going to be completely different as far as processes go. And your experience will vary because there's nothing consistent about all of them because they learned on their own without any management, leadership, support, clear and concise guidance, and et cetera. So I would say training at the dealership level will be one of the #1 issues that they face.
Yeah, because a lot of dealerships, I worked in the Caribbean for a number of dealerships. Not a number of dealerships. I worked for at least 3 different dealerships, 3 different manufacturers: Toyota, Subaru, Ford, and Toyota, Subaru. Yeah, those are the major 3. But of course, Ford has a number of other things, right? Such as motorcraft batteries and all these things. But what I find is that so far only Toyota and Ford as manufacturers has their own internal training system, right? And the dealership itself has to have their own training apart from that in order to get the employees synchronized as to where the mission, the vision, and the values of that dealership is supposed to be, right? So when a customer walks in or drives in his car, they know exactly what their dealership is all about. You get what I'm saying? So because the leadership of that dealership drives the vision of that dealership. So they want to establish their own culture and set themselves apart from everybody else. However, the manufacturers themselves now have their own internal training as to where, enlighten the dealership and the individuals as to where their mission is to go in terms of a long-term strategic planning. So those are some of the things. But how can the dealership itself, who is profit focused, concentrate on the direction that the manufacturer itself wants to go. Because having worked with Ford and having done my Ford certification with them as well, right? You still carry that number right across the board. And so you can walk into any Ford dealership, present that number and get it. And they'll go into the system and know exactly how much training you have gotten over the years and where you and where you and where your certification is, right? But what I find is some other dealerships, they don't basically do that. Because I've known guys who went to Kia, work with Kia, and when they came to Toyota, they have to start all over again because the training is completely different.
Yes. Yeah, and I've experienced now, my dealerships actually were pretty similar. I've worked in a Ford dealership, I've worked in a Toyota dealership, and my other dealership would be Chrysler. And Chrysler also had online testing that you had to do to be a service advisor, to be certified.
Yeah.
Here's part of the problem, and it'll stem back to training again. I have seen where a dealership wants to get a service advisor up and running as fast as possible. And they'll actually, in the background, assign somebody else to go online and do that online testing for that service advisor. So they're certified on the books and ready to go right away. To connect manufacturer and dealership in a more cohesive sense, I hate to talk about surveys because surveys are in my opinion, one of the issues in our industry. They serve a purpose, but they're not serving the purpose that you would think they serve. If a dealership had a stronger focus on manufacturer surveys, and those surveys utilized by the manufacturer is going to achieve what they want from their customer base. If you combine those two objects, the training as far as dealership level, their own personal culture, in addition to the manufacturer's culture, will start to mesh a little bit better, I think.
Yeah. That is essential. That is basically essential.